So at this point, all we need now is to say insert, and we are good to go, right? But this is the thingy here. We need to organize this data a little bit better. So, so here we have the ID. This is the question ID. So that goes in here because that doesn't look anything like this. So as much as we're going to provide this, we need to provide it per row, and then question ID there. Okay, okie dokie. Okay, so instead of doing all this inside, you could do this inside your model, but I want to keep the model as simple as possible. So what we do instead, we're going to use the controller to loop through the data. Yeah, since there's no need for validation when we are inserting. Wait a minute, data. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit strange. The thing is, the way we're going to save this information is one answer at a time, since each of these is supposed to be a row that is separate. Okay, that will be separate. So what we do is this data here will be in form of a single array. Give me a second here. Key value. No, I think this still works fine. So let's go back to our tech test controller, and when we do post something, we are right here. So this is where we say save answers to database. And of course, we're going to need our trusty model here. So this model is the answers be equal to new answers model. Okay, so now that we have that model, what we need now is to loop through the post variable here. So I'm just going to say for each down here, and let's use that post like this. Okay, now in our post variable, we might end up having more data than we need. For example, if you plan, because there's a way to, if you plan on adding next and previous buttons here, which we may do, you may want those to be post variables as well, just so you can save whatever is here before you go to the next page. Now, if you do that, there'll be more data here than we need, and that data won't have a number here. It will have another key that isn't a number. So what we could do is check for numeric values only and then save those, just in case. This is just future-proofing this system. So the first thing we do is check if the key, so if is numeric, in this case, the key. So if that key is numeric, then we are on track here. So save, yeah. And to save is very simple. We just insert. Oopsie, what have I done? Answer, and then we say insert. So insert, and we are inserting. Now the thing is, we don't want to insert the post data. So we want to create our own piece of information here. So I'm just going to say array ARR like this, and add some values here and say is equal to, wait, what is this here? Array is equal to, yes. So what I want is to match the information here. So we have a user ID, question ID, and date, and then a test ID. So let me just copy these babies for reference. Okay. Oops. what's going on. Actually, instead of reference, we can just use them like this. Nope, it won't allow me to select unless I use a, oh boy, unless I use a regular expression, but that's overkill. So let's just paste like so, and then let's add some closing brackets over there. Very good. And let's put an equal sign, remove that, replace with a semicolon, and so what will be the user ID? Okay, so the person taking this the one taking this test right now that's the user ID. So I will say let's get that from the author, and let's say get, wait a minute, I've forgotten what our users table looks like. Give me a second here. Let's see, too many projects at once. Yeah, so user, what are we looking for here? The user ID. Goody. So get user underscore ID, there we go. And then the question ID is the one we have in the key. So that's the question ID right there. The date, obviously we can create our own date. So YMDHIS. Okay, good. And then we have the test ID as well that we need. And then we have the answer. Now the test ID, since we have loaded this test, should be in here in the ID over there. So let's put that over here. Yes. And then the answer will be the value. At this point, let's put that over here. Now, instead of all this that we created, the trim spaces, I think it will not be needed anymore, because we can easily just trim it on the other side, just to save on processing. So I'm just gonna say trim right here and save. Okay, so that does it actually, and then now I can put this baby in here. Goody, isn't it? Okay, that sure does. Yes, let's see, ID, but wait a minute, the thing is, we need to be able to know if an item with the question ID and the test ID exist. If they do, oh wait a minute, we need all of these, because remember, there will be many users taking this test, so we are definitely going to have duplicates of the same question being answered from the same test, right? But not by the same person, right? So we need all three of these guys to know if that question already exists before we save the answer. So what we're gonna do is, let's say, check if answer already exists. Okay, so here we will create a simple query to do that, and we're just going to say select all. Wait a second, here we might just need the ID, that's it. So select ID from, and this is answers, that's the table, where, oopsie, where the user ID be equal to, we'll put user ID just for consistency, and then and what's this, test ID be equal to test ID, and question ID be equal to, again, question ID. Boom. Limit 1. So if we can just get one of these, then we know that that this thing exists, right? So let's get answer right here and use query instead, and put our query in there. Of course, we will need an array to give this information. So let's do this instead. Let's say something like this. So this one will be check. That's what I'll call it. Since we are just doing a quick check here, let's create an array here. So first of all, user ID, user ID, comma, no, not comma, arrow, the fat arrow, and we are getting that from here. So get that and put it right here, comma, and let's do a few of these duplicates. This one is test ID. Should have just copied that, and Control D to select two of those. Question ID, very nice. So if check returns a result, then we know to insert. Otherwise, we know to replace, right? Alrighty then. So for now, let's say if not, I don't know why I keep saying that. If not check, and then let's go down here. So if we didn't find anything, then let's insert. Otherwise, let's just ignore the whole thing. And then once we are done with all this, it means we will look through here. And this up to there, instead of showing this content, we're going to redirect our yes, this redirect. Where are we? Right here? Right here. So this redirect to, where are we redirecting to? Tech test, yes. Like this. Slash. So let's check what's there now. We have our test ID, and that's about it. So I'm just going to concatenate the main ID like this, and that should do the trick. Okay, goody. So now let's try this, right? Let's save our answers. Okay, so we have a couple of errors, which is very exciting because now we get to solve a problem. Yeah, let's do that in the next video.